Today we are going to be solving systems using substitution with one extra step. So this is part 2. So we have the equation x minus 4y equals 17 and 2x plus y equals negative 2. Last night, all of your equations had the first step already done, which was to solve one of the equations for x or y. You want one of these equations to have a y equals or an x equals. So you want to make sure you solve one of these for x or y. Now it takes a little more thought than what has usually been given. So what I want you to look at is that you have 4 letters here. You have an x in the first equation, a y in the first equation, an x in the second equation, and a y in the second equation. You can solve your equations for any one of those. So there are 4 ways you can solve an equation. But what's going to happen is that you are going to end up with fractions if you're not careful. So what I want you to look at is look at the coefficient of this x. The number in front of this x, since it's not there, is 1. This number is negative 4. This coefficient is 2. This coefficient is 1. Whenever possible, you want to make sure that you don't have a number in front of your x or y. You want a coefficient of 1. So we want to solve for either this x or this y. Either one of these. Because if you pick 4 or 2, and you have to divide everything by negative 4, you're going to end up with fractions. If you divide everything by 2, you're going to end up with a fraction. So we want to pick either the first or second equation. So I'm going to pick the first equation. So write this down. X minus 4y equals 17. Now I want to solve this equation for x. When I say I want to solve it for x, that means I want to move the negative 4y to the other side. I want to get x by itself. So let's add 4y to both sides. That would give me x equals 4y plus 17. And now you follow the exact same steps as last night. This 4y plus 17 should be plugged in for the x value right there. So that would give me 2 times, in parentheses, 4y plus 17 plus y equals negative 2. Distribute. 2 times 4y is 8y. 2 times 17 is 34. Plus y equals negative 2. Combine like terms, 8y and 1y is 9y plus 34 equals negative 2. I subtract 34 on both sides. That gives me 9y equals negative 36. I divide both sides by 9. That gives me y equals negative 4. So my y value is negative 4. To find my x value, here's my x right here. X equals 4y plus 17. So I want to take the y that I got from down here, plug it in, so I get 4 times negative 4 plus 17. Don't mind the bell. So 4 times negative 4 is negative 16 plus 17. 17 minus 16 is 1. Therefore, I get an x value of 1. And my answer is 1, negative 4. Example number 1. 2x plus 5y equals 7. And x plus 3y equals 0. Now, in this problem, once again, there is nothing that you have a letter by itself. There is no letter by itself. So, we could get that x by itself, that y, that x, that y. But which letter do you think would be easiest to get by itself? I'm hoping you pick this one right here. Here's the reason. This has a coefficient of 2. Coefficient of 5, coefficient of 3, and here we have a coefficient of 1. Always pick the one that has a coefficient of 1. It will be much, much, much easier. So what we are going to do is solve the second equation for x. So that means I need to move that to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 3y on both sides, which means my equation was going to be x equals negative 3y. So what am I going to do with that? Step 1, got the letter by itself. Step 2, Substitute this, the negative 3y, substitute the negative 3y in to the first equation for the value of x, because x equals negative 3y, so we plug it in. 2 times negative 3y plus 5y equals 7. So now I get negative 6y plus 5y equals 7. Combine like terms. That gives me negative 1y equals 7. Divide by negative 1. 7 divided by negative 1 is negative 7. So my y value is 7. We have to find the x, so take it and plug it in right there into my box. So y is negative 7, so we take negative 3 times negative 7, which gives me an x value of 21. So my answer is 21, negative 7. Example number 2. This will be our last example. 2x plus y equals 1. And the second equation, 10x minus 4y equals 2. So, what would you get by itself? Which equation would you solve for either x or y? I'm hoping you look and say the first one, right there. I want to get that y by itself because there's a coefficient of 1 here. So, what do I need to move to the other side? I need to take this 2x and move it to the other side by doing what? You're going to subtract 2x. So if I subtract 2x, that's going to give me y equals negative 2x plus 1. So I take this right here, the negative 2x plus 1, block it up, and I plug it in right there for y. So my equation would be 10x minus 4 times y. Y is negative 2x plus 1 equals 2. Distribute 10x plus 8x minus 4 equals 2. Now 10x plus 8x, that gives me 18x minus 4 equals 2. Add 4 to both sides. 18x equals 6. Divide both sides by 18, and this is a very common mistake. People are like, oh, 18 divided by 6 is 3. No. This is 6/18. 6/18 have a common factor of 6. So that becomes 1/3. So my x value is 1/3. I now take that 1/3 and plug it back up here to find y. So, if you can't do it in your head, then don't. Write it down. Plug the 1/3 in. Negative 2 times 1/3. Negative 2 times 1/3, that's just negative 2 times 1. That's negative 2/3 plus 1. So what that means is you have 1 minus 2/3. You should be able to do that in your head. 1 whole minus 2/3 means I have 1/3 left over. If you don't know that, then you would realize, well, I have to change that to a common denominator, which would be 3/3, and 3 minus 2 is 1, so it would be 1/3. And so your answer is 1/3, 1/3. So the only key concept today, the only new thing that you have to do is first solve one of the equations, just one, solve one of the equations for either x or y. You want one of the equations to have either an x equals or a y equals. And then all of the other steps are the same as yesterday.